So I will speak more about Europe, European Union. It was after war and destruction that the European Union came as a commitment to growth and peace. And we have seen now this has been good years for growth for many years. But we also have seen, and we discussed, and verses in college remind us, the period that we thought that the solution was in competitive devaluations. At the end of the last century, there was quite a lot of turmoil in the markets. It was the period of the ERM, the exchange rate mechanism. And Europe found a solution, as it found many times in times of crisis. The European Monetary Union, as a commitment problem, as a commitment to solve the monetary problem, as a commitment to price stability. And it worked out. As we can see, rates converged for a long period, a nice period, but debts were not the same. It was not only about the size, but what was behind or what was ahead, about the possible liabilities. So that's what we have seen, the increase in rates, the divergence of it at the beginning of the crisis. So how we solve this issue? So the idea has been precisely to look at that you had also to solve the commitment fiscal problem, not only the monetary one. And that's how it's been done in many countries, maybe one before the other, and so on. So here is where we stand. The question is, what is a proper European fiscal union, but also what is possible? It's very easy to elaborate about the federal European Union and so on, but the question is something that can be done. What it requires that when you have a unique monetary policy, like in the Eurozone, and you agree to have more commitment, you have to have still some level of resharing and burden sharing, and fiscal burden sharing. Why? Because you have to adjust to. And that's how it's done in the US through the fiscal federal budget. But we want to do this with limited or almost no union taxes. And we want to do this without becoming a transfer union, it's called. So we limited redistribution. So what does imply? Implies that you have to draw the lines between what the union can do and what the different states can do or have to do. You have to limit sovereign debt. You have to account for liabilities, not only the ones we have, but the ones ahead. And of course, and we have learned the lesson, you have to avoid the private debt turning into public debt. What has been done in these years? Well, we do have important pieces on the table. The fiscal compact has already been mentioned. It's a way to commit to limit redistribution with fiscal restraint, similar to the ones that they have the states in the United States. The European stabilization mechanism, that can be a way to risk sharing, to share the risk of different countries in different moments if it is a moment of difficulty, as states do in the United States. With conditionality, nothing is for free. And the European Banking Union as a way to break the link between private and sovereign debt. Something that happened in the crisis. We have seen the private sector heavily affected by the fact that sovereign debt had to pay a high interest rate. That should not happen in a proper union. And of course, we do have the European Central Bank, has been a major player, but can also be a player in this architecture by giving more firing power to the European stabilization mechanism, by being a regulator or keeping more control of the banking union. The colors are not by accident. It's like street lights. Some things are in green. Doesn't mean that we have reached that fiscal compact, but at least we have reached the agreement. The European stabilization mechanism just came out publicly the 8th of October after a lot of fatigue and has not been developed properly. Not used. Spain is very reluctant to accept, even Italy, to knock at the door. And the European Banking Union is more on the works. So this is the thesis 4 now already. We do have the guns. But the crisis is deep, and we have seen it is deep for some. This, we already seen a version of that. This is, we normalized the different countries in 2008 at the peak. In blue, United States has already come out. That's what you expect in a business cycle. You should come out quick, back again. And it's also true of Germany in green. France is almost there in brown, but we see at the bottom Italy and Spain. Italy in green, Spain brown too. We can see them better here if we only look at France, Spain, and Italy. Something like this, we have already seen it. That shows us that in relative terms, the dip of the crisis has been more severe in Italy. Of course, if we look at a little longer period, and we normalize to year 2000, the beginning of the century, that we see the fast growth of Spain. That's what in Spain is felt much more the crisis, because we were used to grow faster for a period. What has not been done? Well, the lines had not been drawn properly or clearly. And this we have seen from the beginning. We had not been able to say to Greece, this is what Europe can do. This is what you have to do for yourself. We had not been able to do properly on time to the banking system, for example, in Spain, to Las Cajas, what can be done and what cannot be done. It has been always the idea that everyone will be safe. And that possibly is not what we can do. So we just use the rescue packages for these countries, and the CB, but maybe we have used too much this CB, just the bank, and cannot do and should not be doing everything, although has acted, thanks he did. So we have to set, we have not properly developed or used this, the European stabilization mechanism, and we are going very slowly in the development of the European Banking Union. True that no one had thought that we can go and talk about some of these things a few years ago. So in this has been advanced. But it's also true that if we want to solve the crisis now, we have to move faster. And this is what we have seen. We have seen this graph, and now we can put there where the packages came. Now we are slightly better, for good and for bad. We're slightly better than we were a year ago, and Monty had explained it many times how was the spread before and after. But that also means that then things, well, maybe it's not so bad. This CB is taking care of it. That is a danger. So this is my thesis. We have the guns, but not enough guts. Why? Because we have to confront a severe risk problem. Here is the ranking for the different countries, and it turns out that we have, on the more risky countries, 4 of the Eurozone. While a lot of European countries, they are at top on the best risk, on the CDS, credit default swap. So that shows that we have a severe discrepancy within the European Union, within the Eurozone. And many of these problems come from the past, as we have seen now in the intervention by Professor Singales. And those things are holding our future. So this is the IMF last forecast for the world. In red, the ones that are going to be growing for 2013, above 3.3. In blue, the ones below. It's not just Asia, it's also Latin America. Even Africa is growing. But we see the Western countries, Europe, even the States, and in Australia is not doing that. If we focus into every area, and now, of course, the numbers have to be smaller, we are talking of above 0.2 or below 0.2. In red, the ones that's going to be growing a little next year. In blue, and we just have seen today from the Bank of Italy, has been said, that's where Italy is. So this is our second problem, the Eurozone divide. So how do countries grow? By increasing government spending and cutting taxes? Well, this is a very popular recipe. It has been tried. Spain, now the numbers are slightly better. You can see what is the bottom is 2008. We had the numbers right, public numbers, the debt and the deficit. But they had the idea of following the recipe, and things changed very fast and went into the crisis. So thanks, Paul. Reducing government spending and raising taxes. Well, Singal is very positive about it. I think we should do those things, of course. But we have to be very careful, because many times we cut in the wrong place. Why do we cut in the wrong place? Because it's easier. Because in the wrong place, it means we have more resistance. So what is the easy place to cut? Well, the people are just going to go. I can see this in the university. Some good people just go. While other things, let's say, well, those are the inefficient things. Why don't you cut it? Well, that creates problems. But there is another way to think about growth. Another Nobel Prize is like Prescott and others will recommend. It's just you identify and remove what the barriers to growth. This is a body, the economy. Bodies naturally grow. If they don't grow, it's because something stops them to grow. So that's the main thing you have to do. Remove the barriers to growth. And on this, if we look at the statistics, we are not in a very good shape. Not only Spain or Italy. This is doing business by the World Bank. So here are the rankings. Just below the number, like France, for example, in registering property is not doing well at all. Just below the number is the name of the country which is just above. So the chart is just above. And in protecting investors, Malawi is just above Spain, number 100. And then we have quite a few indicators where Italy is very bad numbers. But the surprising thing is to see which country is just slightly above. That's not the way we thought about the world a few years ago. But that's the way the world is now. And so we can go on. And we can also look at different sources. This is the Global Competitiveness Report. Similar. Those are reports all done with a lot of interviews and so on, and they have quite a lot of experience on property rights. On wastefulness of government spending, we have seen similar numbers for Professor Singales. On how much is a burden the government of regulations. On this, number 142 is way below in the ranking. It's just slightly above is Greece. And we also have other type of indicators, like on the quality of education system, on the quality of math and science education. And those are the numbers, it's not my numbers. Which have to do also not only in removing barriers, but in building proper capacities, human capacities, proper state capacity too, proper capacity for business, for exporting and so on, and also for social. You need to have, and that's a major issue now, that we don't have more social disruption. And these are numbers from Italy, and what do we call the lost generation, as we mentioned? It is so famous, not in employment, education, or training. Well, within 15 and 29, 23% in Italy, 24% in Spain. And when we look at that and say, oh, well, that's some other place. Well, we look at the numbers in Italy, and those are the proportion among these 23 where they are. Well, substantial, almost half of it in the center north. Or they have a diploma. And in addition of that, for example, in Spain, we have created a lot of jobs in the expansion. A lot of these jobs were really temporary jobs and so on. So we have a lot of people now arriving to age 40, not 19, age 40, that they never had a serious job. So this is, again, the forecast for 2013. Oh, this is a different thing. This is the PISA report. And so this is that they do with the kids of 15 years, whether they are good in math and science. In red, the ones which are above the OECD average. In blue, the ones which are below. Wait a second. Is this the same? It's the same. It's the same map. The forecast for next year to what the kids 15 do. Maybe it's not coincidence. So I just said my 5 theses. I think Europe, had done a huge commitment, and a very important one on growth and peace, to develop the European Union institutions. We had developed the monetary union as a commitment device and had done an incredibly good job. One also had to think how things could have been gone, not had been there. And we do have now, as a lesson of the crisis, the development of the fiscal union as a commitment device too. But as I said, we do have, not the whole thing, but we have the main pieces of the structure on the table. The question is whether we really have politically the will to go ahead at the speed that these things needs to be done. And this is not trivial because we have this divide. Some countries did reforms earlier on. Others, like we did in Spain, we had a good party and very good years. We did some reforms, of course, but not as much as they were, because we talk about the Lisbon agenda a lot in Spain, actually, but things were going well. Maybe it was not the right time to do anything. Well, now we have the problem. So that's my last thesis. You have to deal with 4 and 5. You want to get 3. Otherwise, we are not going to see growth. We're going to see some exports pushing these economies, and that's, many of you know about that, and that's the most positive sign. But that's not enough to carry our whole countries along. So we are not going to have growth even if we have the Peace Nobel Prize.